Hi guys, Blair Ballard here in St James's in the centre of town. If you don't know where St James's is, it's got Piccadilly to the north, Pall Mall to the south. This is the area you'll find most of the traditional brands connected to Bond. So if you want to try on a Connery Trilby, try not to say that after you've had a few Vespers, but James Lock round the corner will sort you out with a Sandown. If you want to have your Q branch attaché case relined, Swain Adeney and Brigg round the corner there will sort you out. We've got Jermyn Street there. If you want footwear, you can go and have a pair of boots made at Lokes or John Lobb or Crockett & Jones or Churches. Floris is down there as well if you want to pick up a bottle of number 89 aftershave. But we're here for a rather special experience today. Turnbull Asser will be making shirts for royalty, heads of state and discerning 00 agents for over 130 years. We're going to take you guys on a journey of what it's like to have a bespoke shirt made by the guys who started it all off. They originated the cocktail cuff. Ian Fleming got his shirts made here, and Terence Young, the director of Dr. No, brought a young Sean Connery here to get knocked into sartorial shape. So we're going to go and check it out now, go from start to finish about having a shirt made by Turnbull Asser.
I'm Liam Devaney. I'm the assistant manager here at Turnbull Asser, and we are here in our bespoke shop. Welcome.
Liam, thanks so much
Hello.
for having us. Thank you, thank you. So when you walk into the shop here on Berry Street to buy a shirt, you have three options. You have ready to wear, made to measure, and your full bespoke service. Can you talk us through the different aspects of those?
Indeed. Ready to wear, the gentleman likes the shirt, already knows the garment, and is happy to make selection from what we prepared for him. Then there is made to measure, where the gentleman is possibly slightly taller, or has enjoyed a little more between Christmas and New Year, and requires a slightly different fit. So there we're going to find an appropriate torso. We're then going to make sure that it has the right sleeve length and the right collar size. And there, since we're making a shirt almost from scratch, we're going to be offering a different collar and a different cuffs treatment to go with that.
And then the full bespoke is basically made to fit like a glove, basically.
Yes, this is where we are. And some gentlemen do want it to fit like it's sprayed on. Other gentlemen want something a little more comfortable, that's more practical. But yes, it's to fit the dimensions of the body and to accommodate the quirks that are us.
But just to clarify, when you have a made-to-measure shirt, it's not just putting on a different collar and maybe lengthening the sleeves. The shirt is still cut.
Oh, you are quite correct. It's been cut from a pattern generated on the cutting table just for that customer. So it is still made personally for that customer. It just doesn't incorporate the different angles of the shoulder and all the little quirks that one might desire in a shirt. It is still the components of a ready-made shirt.
Big quirks, unfortunately, yes. My condition. Okay, so we've decided to go for the bespoke shirt. Now, normally, obviously, if you're coming for the first time, the minimum order is 6 shirts, isn't it? Is that right?
We can do that, yes.
But I have to confession, gentlemen and ladies, I actually had some shirts made here bespoke way back when. My first Father's Day present was some shirts from Turnbull Asser, which was absolutely fantastic. So my patterns are on file. So today I think we're going to go for 2 shirts. I'd like to go for a dress shirt and maybe something a bit more racy, sort of a kind of Sea Island cotton blue, yes. Mixing the kind of elements really, I think.
That sounds much like you might like a Bond shirt, a shot in the style of
Sean
Connery.
Well, Sean Connery, I'd like to mix the old and the new, so maybe Sean Connery, the cocktail cuff, many people know as cocktail cuffs, but they're 2-button turnbacks for you. But mix that, so the Connery version of that, but with a sort of Brosnan collar for that shirt.
Slightly more cutaway.
Yeah, so sort of, not Conran, Brosnery. Yes, yeah, Connery and Brosnan mixed together. So what's the first phase we go through first?
What we need to do is be sure that you like the fabrics. You already know about them, so that's easy. We need to just make sure we check the measures so that to accommodate any changes that might have happened between the last time and this time. And if it was more than 10 years ago, we will start from scratch because people alter quite significantly over a 10-year span. So we'll get the tape measure out and we'll start measuring you.
Fantastic, great.
I'm just going to take a series of measurements from you. Have you changed much in the...
Oh, we've all changed, haven't we, Liam? We've all changed.
Yes, but your style hasn't changed though.
That's very true.
Lovely, raise your arms for me.
Yes, indeed. So how do you
and lower them.
Embrace your connection with James Bond as a company, Turnbull Asser, obviously.
Wholeheartedly. We're deeply in love with, if that's a phrase one's allowed to use. We're completely enamoured by James Bond, by the whole romance of James Bond, by the actor, by the character, as much as by all the gentlemen who have kindly played that role. It's something we thoroughly enjoy. They come to us occasionally for visits after the premieres, which is always a thrill for us to see them in the shop, and we visit, of course, the sets to take measures and furnish them with the shirts. So it's a lot of fun.
And didn't one of your colleagues actually...
Mr. Cook, yes, lucky Mr. Cook. He, again, is a fan. Lindy Heming invited him when he was delivering some shirts to look at the soundstage and see what was going on, and then thought, wouldn't it be fun if he was actually in the crowd, on the set, put a jacket on his back, put a pretty girl on his arm, and he is in shot, and that's just great fun.
So cool. So not jealous at all?
No, not jealous at all. Yes.
Through clenched teeth. I don't know what you think, folks, but I think that Liam has a touch of the Brosnan about him, especially you've got these X-ray glasses you're wearing as well.
Well, they are, absolutely, Mr.
I'm going to cover myself up. Fantastic. So the measurements, how many measurements do you take normally for...
I think I have 18 measurements here for the different parts of you. Most of it is around the upper body, just to accommodate the sloping shoulder that you have and the droopy bit at the back, and one forward shoulder and the slight prominence of the neck. And so then we want to make sure that because even if you had a short shirt, a Hawaiian style that sat on the hip, we would still be, the top of the body would still be the same, even if you made it looser. And if you had a short sleeve, the top is the same. And if you never wore the collar, the body would still be the same. And that's where the changes we see after time. So we'll keep this pattern for you for 10 years. And if you don't pop in again between now and then, we'll probably shred it. If you were famous, we would keep it. But then we would redo the pattern just to check the measures and make sure it's all sitting nicely for you.
Okay,
I'm just going to jot these down since I've taken them. So just be comfortable.
Okay.
Let me come to you. All right. Do you like to show some cuff underneath the jacket?
I do, yes.
Excellent. And we will do that. Arms are usually slightly different lengths, so I'm just going to measure the other one as well.
Okay.
6.
What are your thoughts about the costume choices and the wardrobe choices that they've made for the Daniel Craig films most recently?
Very striking. Very striking. There are some pieces that are a little more forward than we've seen Bond, a little more dynamic, a little more, not necessarily stylish, but they are pieces more contemporary, possibly for a more contemporary script. We've seen Bond in the early days, Sean Connery and George Lazenby, of being a slightly more of the traditional romantic spy rather than the action adventure. And so we've seen that change in the script, and it needed a change in act to do. We needed someone with more of Daniel's skills and possibly less of the late Roger Moore's. But I don't know that Daniel would be as comfortable with the comedy as Roger Moore was, or indeed Roger Moore is comfortable with some of the heavy action scenes as Daniel is.
I know that Daniel Craig has always said he was never someone who was happy doing quips. He was not comfortable doing that. And likewise, Roger Moore had quite a few stunt doubles who did all the kind of running and jumping and stuff for him, which is fair enough. I mean,
but both charming gentlemen, and both brought to us a Bond that is memorable, entertaining, fun to watch. People we want to be. Well,
absolutely. But also, I think it's 4 out of the 6 Bonds you've actually made shirts for. But the other Bonds, Roger Moore and Dalton didn't actually get their shirts for the films from Turnbull Asser, but they had them in their private lives and their private wardrobes, I believe.
Yes, indeed. Right? I was privileged to furnish Roger Moore with a blazer when he was last in here, which is a few years ago now, but nonetheless a charming gentleman, very nice, very stylish, very elegant. But then if you have clothing like this, elegance is always in fashion.
It never goes out of fashion. It's always in fashion. Absolutely right.
Absolutely. As indeed Bond is always in fashion. He's one of the oldest running franchises now, and absolutely stunning. A character that everybody wants to get a little piece of. And indeed, we have much joy with both the shirts and the clothing and the ties that we've made for him.
What's the biggest seller that you have that is connected to Bond, do you think?
Undoubtedly the ties, if only because at that price point they're accessible for gifts. Ladies can come in and buy them. They don't need to know their husbands or boyfriends or brothers' shirt size, collar size. They can just buy a tie, and then they have a piece of Bond to take home. The next is, of course, the shirts, both by Daniel Craig, the evening shirt that we created, which is brilliant and stunning. And you should actually consider having one of those. I can see you wearing that. And then the blue shirt that we did for Sean Connery, that's proved very popular. She's a very popular Bond.
Oh, of course, of course. The original is still the best in many people's books. Okay, so what's next?
Now we've taken some measurements. I do need to just do one more thing, and that's if you would stand with your feet together and be as relaxed as possible. Just need to have a look and make sure that you are aligned. And then I need to take a drop off of this as well to accommodate the left and right shoulder. Lovely, thank you. And to take a cuff measure.
Sure.
Is this your normal watch?
That is the watch I would wear.
An Omega?
Indeedy, that's a Bond watch you have there, indeedy.
Absolutely, that's very,
Has
very
to be
smart.
done, has to be done.
It does indeed. And a double cuff or a button cuff for you?
I'd like a 2-button turn back.
Ah,
so
yes.
I'm
Okay.
going old school, yes. So
Lovely.
Let's go for that.
There was that. Double cuffs also come in 2 configurations, thank you. One is the classic square double cuff that we see on everything, but also there is the mitered version, which appears on the Daniel Craig Bond shirt for Casino Royale.
Fantastic.
But you mentioned 2-button turn back?
Yes.
That's spectacular. It's elegant, it's sophisticated, a little different from our 3-button, but nonetheless just very stylish.
So that's your traditional 3-button.
That's what we put on everything that is a button cuff shirt. But the 2-button turn back gives you the best of both worlds.
Now, is it true? Can you confirm that Turnbull Asser were the originators of the 2-button turn back / cocktail cuff?
It's his first scene being worn by David Nevin, and he was a customer of ours. So we have
What a
some
gentleman.
belief, maybe a little more than just ego, that actually it did come from us here.
Fantastic. And then Terence Young
Yes.
brought in a young Sean Connery.
Indeed,
To get
absolutely. And
knocked
to have
into-
that same cuff, he'd seen it being worn by David Niven, and thought that would be excellent, the excellent quality of one gentleman who was charming, elegant, and a hero, and had fought for the country, to be worn by another gentleman who was going to do the same thing.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I mean, that's what we're going to have to go for. But there's a difference between the Connery 2-button turn back that was worn in Dr. No
Yes.
and the more modern version that you use now.
Yes, in the same way that there are some very, very bright patterns in the old pattern books dating back 100 years, which no one would wear now. You would look at them and we couldn't sell it. It's not possible.
Sure.
But gentlemen in the day, that's all they had, the bright coloured shirt. Everything else was as grey as dishwater.
Sure.
So that was the thing they went for. Here we find ourselves with a slightly modified version, as you say, of that cuff. The original was quite dramatic and showed a lot more of the button and a little more of the cocktail element of
Sure.
there, whereas the modern version is just a little softer, a little easier to wear on a daily basis.
Well, maybe we'll go for the dress shirt, we'll go for your more modern iteration, and then for the blue shirt, I said we're going to go for the Brosnery. So we'll go for the Connery cocktail cuff, and then with the blue. Fantastic.
Excellent, good choice, sir.
Great stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
We've picked out the cuffs we want to go for the 2 shirts. Now let's move on to the cloth we'd like to use.
Cloth is key, because cloth will be the thing that makes this experience for you absolutely set in stone, as it were, and set into your memory. I believe there's another thing called the Bond experience, is there not?
You entertained, I think, David from across the
Yes,
pond.
about 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago,
he
he popped
popped in.
in.
Yes, after the premiere.
That's
Charming
right, yes.
gentleman, very nice. We had a little chat. I think we did. He had his phone with him, did a little bit of a thing going on. Yeah, very nice man, very pleasant. Yeah.
There we go. Bond experience is remembered. There we are. Fantastic. So what do we have here? This is the dress shirt. So it's a super
Yes,
line.
it is.
Fine, yeah?
Superfine fabric. That's just the quality of the yarn being used to make up this weave. It has a slight, simple basket weave effect to it, which has 2 properties. 1, it allows it to breathe, and 2, it looks a little bit more like a dress shirt without having to have all of the extra front on it. So without having had the bib, which makes it cooler to wear, makes it softer to move, and it's exactly what we needed in the film.
So that was what they used in Casino Royale?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So it was
Yes,
actually kind of
indeed.
a bit more for the action scenes as well.
Very good, and very effective.
Great
Very
stuff.
effective indeed. And then the blue fabric here, which is gorgeous. This is really just a classic poplin that we've always sold, and it is again the colour and style of the shirt we used for Sean Connery's Bond shirt back in '62.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Let's go for it. We've picked out our cloths. What's next?
Just choose a collar style for you, because there are several, many to choose from.
Okay.
Yeah, and some will suit you better than others, but also you will desire more than others.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? You kind of the collar should fit the man and not just
Yes, absolutely.
I defer to greater
No,
superior
we'll do
knowledge.
that. We wouldn't want to put some people think that on a shorter gentleman you have a very cutaway collar, because that's in keeping with the proportions of the neck and the head and the shoulder, but actually it accentuates it, makes it even worse, or even shorter or broader, and that might not be the desired effect.
Sure.
And so then we see the same thing with a very tall gentleman, a very long collar. And it might look like it's appropriate for the shape of him, but actually all it does is make him seem even. And nobody wants that. And there is maybe a better balance to have, because here at the front of the jacket, if you're jacket on with a tie, this is what you see. You don't then worry so much about the other things. And so this proportion is much better balanced. And if you take a lightweight silk or a foulard and pull a very tight knot, then you will want a smaller collar with less tie space. And if you tie and use a nice jacquard, really thick, rich, heavy tie, and you tie a looser knot, you will want more space. And so the things to be talked about in terms of its use, its purpose.
Okay, lead on, Macduff.
Please.
Wow, it's quite an array.
Yes, really, again, just conversational pieces. Here we start with an idea. The gentleman will see something and say, oh, I like that, and we will talk about it, we'll look at his proportions and determine whether we actually need to make the collar possibly a little deeper at the side. As you see on this one, if the camera can pick it up, it's quite a deep collar at the side. So someone who has a long neck, going to cover that a little, just to slow it down a bit, just to make it not look too lanky.
Sure.
We want to dress the man nicely so he's comfortable in it, so it looks good, and he looks good in it. And then the same with cutaways. We see a lot of very cutaway collars out in the street with tiny ties on them, and it accentuates. Yes, I'm not sure what that accentuates, but it's never quite as good a look as people often wish it to be.
Right.
But there is a balance. There is a balance to be had. And here we see different knot sizes and different collar shapes to prove that point.
So, for Connery, which collar did Connery go for? Because it wasn't a medium spread originally, and it's kind of evolved from there, or how did it work?
A little bit, yes. They were quite progressive in the day and wanted something that was quite striking, not too traditional, so still wanting, everyone wants to be a little fashion forward. Sure. And so we see a slightly more cutaway collar coming into play, which is like this. If you consider that, compare it to the TNA collar on your far left.
Right. And for Connery, what was the collar he went for Dr. No? Was it Regent collar?
I believe it was the Regent collar.
That's right. Okay. So so maybe for the dress shirt, I'm trying to mix things again. So
yes.
Maybe for the dress shirt, I know some people will be kind of.
Well, why not? It's going to be your shirt. You must have as you wish.
Absolutely.
Isn't this the fun of having bespoke, of having the things that you desire, so that when you put it on, you are comfortable?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So maybe for the dress shirt, I'd go for the Regent collar.
Okay.
Give Connery the nod. Which was the collar that with Brosnan further down the line?
Well, for Pierce Brosnan, with the collar we used was particular to the angle of photography that was being used at the time.
Sure.
We could offer that to you, but I would suggest you will not enjoy the experience. So we actually might go for something maybe not quite as dramatic, maybe take the Prince of Wales here for you. And that's not to put you off it, you're welcome to do so, but my experience, judging as you stand in front of me, that would be my respectful opinion.
So we're going for the Regent collar and the Prince of Wales. Fantastic.
Excellent.
These are, you call them
Shirt
bags.
Yes.
They used to be made of.
We used to make them out of linen, but now that we don't do that anymore. We make them out of paper because it's just not efficient.
This belonged to Mr. Brosnan, apparently. Amazing. So what do we find inside? Do you want to put
Yes,
on
absolutely,
shows
if I may.
what's involved?
Here, I can actually show you the collar shape that we have did for him.
Oh, fantastic.
And as you can see, a paper pattern. Wow. Not very good on the screen. But here we have a couple of different internal collar bands go against the neck and several different collar shapes. And so then we can see slightly more traditional TNA that might have been made on possibly some personal shirts, because it's not just his Bond bag, of course, it's his personal bag. And then some other collars, which would have been Bond collars. Here we see the cutaway. Talking about shirt bags, there's another one here you might have a lot of fun with. This one, of course, as we were talking about with the cutting shirt for Sean Connery.
Sean Connery's shirt bag. Fantastic.
Oh, you have a Scottish accent.
Sean Connery. Let's have a look. Oh, wow.
And here is the collar we've been talking about that you might have on your shirt.
Wow.
So this then represents the shape around which we would cut.
Amazing. Slice of Bond history there. Incredible. Was that made? Because I believe the original ones from Dr. No have been sort of lost to history. Is that right?
Yes, there are difficulties when you're talking about things that are 55, 56 years ago, where at the time it was not as important as keeping history records and archiving as we appreciate that it is now. And so then things do get lost, things do get mislaid.
So these were for Never Say Never Again, or one of the later films?
That doesn't say on here. That I cannot tell you. And if I knew, I'd probably have to...
It's kill me. But that's, I mean, Sean Connery. This is just on heaven, really. It's amazing.
So here we have the three great names. We have Sean Connery, Blair Ballard, and Pierce Brosnan.
Sharing the same billing. Isn't that amazing? Fantastic. Great stuff. It's amazing. Blowing me away at the moment. It's absolutely fantastic.
Here we have some fine examples of early pattern making, these first two. One is from Lord Olivier's pattern. I believe this would be a dress wear, by the look of the shape of the collar. And this is a quarter pattern. So if you know how, and forgive me, but I don't, but if you know how, you can take the whole shirt off of that one piece of paper. All the measures are on there. There's a little more information on the back on how to extrapolate and interpret the shirt. And again, the same here for Sir Charles Chaplin.
Amazing, the history indeed.
It's good. And then our favourite president, President Reagan. And here you see a development of the pattern making technique. So here it's just fairly simple. It's a half pattern rather than a quarter.
So those two are quarters, and this and Ronald's is
yes, it makes it a little bit simpler and a little bit faster in the workrooms.
Right. Now, just thinking about this, some of the fans have been asking about the short sleeve shirt that Connery wore in Thunderball, the striped shirt.
Right.
First of all, was it a Turnbull Asser shirt? And if so, would it be possible to recreate that or go back into your archives and...
Yes, quite possible to recreate it. If there is no actual fabric left, which we suppose there isn't, given the length of time, and we were able to identify the particular weave that was used, that might also be tricky, but they're certainly easy to find the colour and the pattern and the balance of the shirt. And yes, you're talking about having some made. We would think that you're going to find probably 120 friends who also want a shirt made, because we're going to be ordering 240 metres of fabric.
And actually making it from scratch, making the actual fabric itself. And what sort of time frame is that?
Really, we took 6 to 8 weeks to have the cloth ready here, and the yarn has to be dyed to the right colour, and then the loom's set, and then there is a programme of that. Everybody wants their cloth quickly. And then once the fabric is in, then we can start making shirts. But we need to know the sizes too. Not everybody wants a 15.5 collar. And so then that becomes a little bit of work, a little bit of effort.
So 120 shirts, maybe 8 or 9 of each size? I mean,
yes, we would do that. That's an easy enough thing to do.
That might be easier.
Yes, that's fairly simple.
So it's possible. Everything is possible with Turnbull Asser.
Yes, everything is possible.
Fantastic.
Indeed.
Great stuff. Are there any other projects? I mean, because you had some great collaborations. I mean, you amazingly wonderful. You did one with Mr. Ben for the non-English viewers. Mr. Ben was an animated cartoon when I was a child. And he went into a fancy dress shop and was trying all these different costumes, and then come out and in the actual changing rooms he'd have lots of adventures, and then come back. With
whatever costume he had chosen, he would then exit through the back of the changing room having an adventure. Always a little bit of a moral to it, but always nice, pitch for children. And then he would come back and hand back the garment, having never actually hired it or bought it. But that was always the moment. And of course our collaboration there was that at one time he put on a tuxedo with a bow tie and looked very much like Mr. Bond. The shopkeeper offered him either the gun or the catapult, and he chose the catapult, and he used a simple device to defeat the baddies, as it were. And that is a great series of handkerchiefs with the original artwork and all the smudges and lines in it. It's very clever.
Brilliant, because you are innovating. You've got some great ideas. You also provided some shirts, I think, for the Kingsman, the new Kingsman.
That was very thrilling. That was exciting to be involved with that project. There was not only the actors who wore the shirts, and didn't they look well too, beautifully done, but also then all of the stuntmen and stunt girls as well. They need to be fitted out to look the same. But that's evolved as well. Before then, we collaborated with the Bond films. We've done for Mission Impossible as well. And then, although it's slightly in the back scenes, there was Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Wow. And lots of the clothing the fabric was brought to us to be made up in the style of, and to be made very classic, and that worked very well as well.
Great Gatsby as well.
The Great Gatsby.
Both Great Gatsbys.
Yes,
is that right?
indeed. Now there is a thing, both for Robert Redford and for Leonardo DiCaprio. So then we very much recreated the look for Leonardo that was in the original film, and there also a little bit of cinematography. We see it. If you were to look back at what was requested and what Fitzgerald wrote, he wrote that the shirts were sea iron cotton quality, but sea iron cotton shirts don't float, and so then they made them of silk. But silk doesn't float when you put a collar on it either. So the next stage was actually just to have pieces of fabric in the right colour floating in the room. So if you look carefully in the back scene and pause the DVD, the footage, you can just make out that some pieces look like they might be missing an arm or two. But nonetheless, it makes the story and it adds to that moment of Daisy throwing the shirts around.
Oh, fantastic. And also, I don't know if you guys know this, if you've seen, you've got the legends, obviously, in the website. You've got all the shirts you can buy, obviously, the back catalogue of the Bond shirts as well. But also the tie for Joker that Heath Ledger wore in the film. That's amazing.
That's quite an interesting piece, because they started with the tie and then built his wardrobe around that. So they identified what they wanted, something dark and rich and moody, something with a dynamic, edgy pattern to it. And they got that with this almost harlequin tie, which where the square moves both in and out depending on the perspective of the viewer.
Fantastic. Now, ties as well. Did I hear little rumblings that there might be something special?
You do. You clearly you have your ear to the grapevine, as it were, ear on the train track. There are many ties that have been made for Bond films, and we have been making and offering ours from Piers Brosnan's films. The company who look after Bond have decided that actually they like the product we do, and realise that there are many more ties that they have had in films and would like to recreate some of those. We think maybe possibly there are one or two which will lend themselves better to a current style and market, but nonetheless there is a great deal of promise there for some very exciting ties, both created exactly as they were and worn in films, but also with some different colourways to make them even more electric.
Any kind of insights about time frames and?
Now it becomes difficult. Now if I tell you this sort of thing, then I'm going to have to kill you.
Yeah, no. I'm too young to die.
No, we don't have that yet. This sort of project, even with one or two or a series of ties, a batch of a dozen different patterns in different colourways, will easily take 6 months. And here we're looking at twice or three times that volume. So we're really looking at a project that's going to last or reach into next year.
Right.
Realistically.
If you need any help, if you need.
Thank you very much.
We've got fans out there who've got the original ties. I'm sure Eon, if you're approaching Eon, they've got their archives as well. But if you needed any help, you can come and approach us, and we can.
Thank you very much. It's a very kind offer.
Yeah, we can help out. But that's what we do at the Bond Experience. Fantastic. So, I was going to ask you as well about New York, because you've got the store there, and a lot of our viewers are stateside. It opened how long ago? It's 1990.
Yes, it's been there now for 97. Yes, where are we now? The years go by. We think we've got 22 years under our belt. The store has had a relocation. The premises wasn't quite large enough, and so we needed to have something with a little more presence to offer all the merchandise and to display it in the way we wanted. So we are in 50 East 57th Street, opposite the Four Seasons Hotel. It's a very nice townhouse effect. It's a very nice building, and the guys there are fabulous. We have English gentlemen there now cutting patterns, so if you go in, you too can have your shirt made by the man who is trained here in London. And that's what we like. We like to have this homegrown family feel about us.
Well, absolutely. So, I mean, you get the full bespoke treatment. It's not just...
Oh, yes. No. We do. There's no standing you in a cubicle semi-naked to have some laser do some strange measurements of you and interpret that actually you're half horse. We don't do that sort of thing. No, this is done by people, listening to people, by hand, shirts of character and personality.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. Must go and visit next time you're in New York. Now, what's the next stage for us? I mean,
I've got your measurements. One thing I just need to ask you is, how do you want the shirt to fit? Do you want it to be sprayed on so it's very, very tight, or just something you can wear every day that's comfortable?
I'd like it on the comfortable side, I think. And my physique has filled out over the years, so I think having one that's too slim, that's slim to the body or fitted might expose some unsightly bulges. So let's go for the more comfortable fit.
Excellent. We'll do that. So we'll see you again in 4 weeks.
4 weeks' time.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for your help.
Pleasure.
Liam Devaney.
Bye-bye.
So there we have it. I've had my measurements taken. I've picked out the collars and the cuffs and the cloths for my two shirts. I'd just like to say thank you to Liam and all the team here at the Turnbull Asser store on Berry Street here in St James's. In my next video, we'll make the trip to Gloucester and actually see the shirts being made. But for now, it's been Blair Ballard here in St James's in London, bidding you a bond farewell.
Oh, hey, you're still here. I didn't even know. You listen, while you're here, if you want, so I would actually go to this button right here and click on it, because then you actually subscribe to our vlogs. It's amazing. You get to see all the upcoming stuff first. You get notifications. It screams at you while you're at work. It's absolutely amazing. Just click on this button, hit subscribe, just move your cursor, move.